The next one we want to look at is esters. So esters are what we know as alkyl alkanoates based on their naming conventions. And so their functional group is going to be quite complex. It's a carbonyl group, which is attached to a single bonded oxygen on a mid-chain carbon. So the way which these are named is we have an il plus an anoate section. So that's where the alkyl alkanoate part comes in. So for example, methyl ethanoate. So if we look at what methyl ethanoate is here at this diagram at the bottom, we can see the methyl part is this additional section here, whereas the ethanoate part is the section which has the carbonyl group attached to it. So we can see we've got one carbon here, so 1, 2 carbons, that being an ethane chain, but then this one's got a double bonded oxygen and then the single bonded oxygen in the middle of the chain. So this part is the end of the name, the ethanoate part, and then this part over here, which doesn't have the carbonyl group, is just connected to by the single bonded oxygen to the rest of the chain, is what is the methyl part of that group. So that's why it's named methyl ethanoate. And that's because the highest priority functional group part of the chain is always named with the suffix, so that being the ethanoate part, this has got the carbonyl group and is also attached to the other mid-chain oxygen, and so that's what makes this part the ethanoate part and this part only the methyl part. And so our general structure of these is we'll have an R group, and then with our carbonyl group and the mid-chain oxygen, single bonded oxygen, and then we'll have an R prime group following on from that. So the R group in methyl ethanoate being the ethanoate part, and then the R prime section being the methyl group. So some examples which we've got here is butyl propanoate. So butyl propanoate being the butyl part being this additional chain over here, which doesn't have the carbonyl group, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the propanoate part being the suffix, the most important part of the molecule, 1, 2, 3, that's our propane chain, and it's got the carbonyl group bonded here and the mid-chain single bonded oxygen here, which is what makes this part the propanoate part, because it's got the propane chain with the carbonyl group and the mid-chain oxygen, whereas the butyl group only has the butane chain and then is connected by this single bonded mid-chain oxygen. The next one we can look at is ethyl propanoate. So ethyl propanoate being this molecule here, where we can see if we look for the ethyl section, that's going to be the section which doesn't have the double bonded oxygen, it doesn't have the carbonyl group. So that's this section over here, where we can see 2 carbons long. It's an ethane chain, but it's the ethyl group because it's a branch. And then the propanoate part is going to be the propane chain with the carbonyl section and the mid-chain oxygen. So 1, 2, 3 carbons long, that's the propane, and then the propanoate is due to this carbonyl group and the single bonded mid-chain oxygen.